The Apple Mac Mini has always lived in the shadows of Apple's flashier products. When you hear people talking about Apple's ecosystem, the conversation usually tilts toward the iPhone, the MacBook Pro, or lately, futuristic devices like the Vision Pro headset. The Mac Mini rarely makes the front page of discussions. And yet, those who know the Apple lineup well understand that this small box has been one of the company's most consistent and versatile machines for nearly 2 decades. The Mac Mini has never tried to be glamorous. You won't find people flexing it in coffee shops like a MacBook Pro. It doesn't carry the cultural aura of the iMac that has starred in films, television, and offices around the globe. What it has always delivered, though, is an unmatched balance of size, affordability, and surprising power. Now, in 2025, the stage is set for what could be its most transformative update yet. Reports, leaks, and whispers from insiders point toward the Mac Mini's next evolution powered by the Apple Silicon M5 chip family. This leap forward is shaping up to be so substantial that it might completely redefine what the Mac Mini stands for, not just a small, affordable desktop, but a powerhouse that competes head-to-head with much larger and more expensive machines. Early reports on performance benchmarks already suggest that Apple's M5 series will change the game. Unlike previous generations that felt more incremental in performance gains, the M5 family appears to push GPU performance into new frontiers while scaling CPU efficiency in ways that might make Intel and AMD nervous once again. Professionals, developers, and even gamers may soon look at the Mac Mini not as Apple's budget desktop but as a highly competitive platform that delivers workstation-grade power at a fraction of the cost. In this long exploration, we'll unpack everything currently known about the upcoming M5 Mac Mini. From rumored benchmarks and GPU breakthroughs to design changes, pricing strategies, comparisons against the M4 generation, and why this machine could become Apple's most strategically important desktop. We're not just listing specs, this will be a full contextual dive into the Mac Mini's place in Apple's hardware roadmap, its historical role, and why the 2025 model matters more than ever. Chapter 1, Benchmark Leaks, Performance that Redefines Expectations. Leaks around Apple Silicon always generate buzz, but they also come with caveats. Benchmarks that appear months before official announcements are often based on prototype hardware. Some are even projections from analysts using architectural data. That said, early numbers for the M5 family have already stunned the tech community. The big clue came when benchmarks for Apple's upcoming A19 chip, expected to debut in iPhones, surfaced earlier this year. Since Apple's silicon strategy is unified across iPhone, iPad, and Mac, improvements in the A series inevitably ripple into the M series that powers Macs. Analysts quickly drew connections between A19's architecture and what we'll see in the M5. According to the numbers currently circulating, M5 standard. Single-core, 4115. Multi-core, 16793. GPU, 541. M5 Pro. Multi-core, 25674. GPU, 155,000, 190,000. M5 Max. Multi-core, 29431. GPU, 264,560. To put these into perspective, the standard M5 is already performing near the level of the older M1 Ultra, Apple's most powerful chip when it debuted just a few years ago. That's staggering. For professional workflows like 3D modeling, video editing in ProRes, and machine learning applications, these numbers suggest the M5 family will rival or even surpass traditional workstations. But what really jumps out is the GPU performance. Apple appears determined to challenge not only Intel's CPUs but also NVIDIA's dominance in GPU-heavy tasks. If these early numbers hold true, even the entry-level Mac Mini could offer graphics power that rivals mid-tier dedicated GPUs, all inside a silent, compact, energy-efficient box. That shifts the conversation around who the Mac Mini is for. Chapter 2, Why the Mac Mini Matters in 2025. The Mac Mini has historically been Apple's gateway desktop. Introduced in 2005, it was pitched as the most affordable Mac ever, BYODKM, as Steve Jobs famously said, "Bring your own display, keyboard, and mouse." Over the years, it served as a flexible option for students, hobbyists, small businesses, and even as server clusters. In the Intel era, the Mac Mini was often criticized for underwhelming specs. Apple seemed reluctant to give it the same love as its more glamorous siblings. That all changed with the shift to Apple Silicon. Suddenly, the Mac Mini became a performance beast. The M1 and M2 Minis blew away expectations, making them some of the best value Macs ever released. The 2025 Mac Mini with M5 could take this transformation even further. Consider the landscape. MacBook Pros are expensive, even with base models starting well over $2,000. iMacs are beautiful but limited in upgradability and tied to built-in displays. Mac Studio and Mac Pro target niche professional markets with high budgets. That leaves a huge gap in the lineup for an affordable, powerful, modular desktop. The Mac Mini is the perfect candidate to fill this role, and the M5 might give it enough muscle to satisfy even demanding creators who previously ignored it. Chapter 3: Possible Design Updates. The Mac Mini's design has remained relatively consistent. A small aluminum square with rounded edges, simple, understated, and practical. The 2023 and 2024 models refined internal cooling but didn't reinvent the wheel. For 2025, insiders suggest Apple may introduce subtle yet impactful design tweaks. These could include slimmer chassis thanks to the energy efficiency of M5. Improved thermal management to sustain higher GPU workloads. Additional ports, perhaps the long-requested HDMI 2.1, more Thunderbolt 5, and expanded USB-C connectivity. New color options. Apple may borrow finishes from the iMac or MacBook line to make the Mini stand out on desks. While no radical redesign is expected, even small changes to I/O could make the Mac Mini more appealing to pro users who need multiple displays, external drives, and audio equipment. Chapter 4: Pricing Strategy. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Mac Mini has always been its price. Apple rarely plays in the affordable category, yet the Mac Mini consistently lands in that sweet spot. The base M2 Mini started around $599, making it one of the cheapest ways to enter the Apple ecosystem. The big question: will Apple keep the M5 Mac Mini at a similar price point? Given inflation and Apple's upward price trends, it wouldn't be surprising if the 2025 model starts slightly higher, perhaps $699 or $749 for the base model. However, if Apple wants to position the Mac Mini as a strategic weapon against Windows desktops, keeping it under $700 could be key. Higher-tier configurations, particularly M5 Pro and M5 Max variants, will likely push above $1,000 and potentially into $2,000 territory depending on RAM and storage. That would still undercut the Mac Studio while offering impressive power. Chapter 5: Comparing to the M4 generation. The M4 generation brought solid improvements in efficiency and AI performance, but it wasn't the revolutionary leap some hoped for. That's why the M5 is attracting so much attention. If the leaks are correct, the M5 will offer 25 to 40% higher CPU performance, 50 to 70% higher GPU scores, dramatic improvements in AI or ML acceleration with neural engine upgrades, better performance per watt, meaning cooler and quieter machines. In short, the M5 isn't just faster, it's smarter, more efficient, and better aligned with the future of computing, which leans heavily on AI workloads. Chapter 6: The Bigger Picture: Why the M5 Mac Mini could be Apple's most strategic release. Apple's product strategy is always about ecosystems. Every device pushes you further into Apple's world: iCloud, App Store, services, accessories. The Mac Mini plays a unique role because it brings people into the Mac experience at a relatively low entry cost. With the M5 generation, the Mac Mini could serve three strategic goals for Apple. Expand Apple's silicon dominance by showing that even the cheapest Mac can outperform many Windows desktops. Attract new professionals who want workstation-level performance without committing $3,000 plus to a Mac Studio. Strengthen AI and gaming narratives. With GPU scores like these, the Mac Mini could finally become a legitimate gaming machine, especially if paired with Apple's growing interest in game development on macOS. If Apple plays this right, the M5 Mac Mini could transition from being a niche machine to a cornerstone of the Mac lineup. Closing thoughts. The Mac Mini has always been underestimated, but that may change in 2025. The M5 chip family looks set to transform it from a modest desktop into a powerhouse that competes with far pricier machines. With potential design updates, smart pricing, and a clear role in Apple's strategy, the upcoming Mac Mini could become one of the most important Macs in recent memory. We're watching Apple shift the perception of its smallest desktop from budget entry to compact pro workstation. If the leaks and predictions hold true, the 2025 Mac Mini might not just steal attention, it could steal the entire show.